Though the game of baseball hasn't changed much over the years, the way we analyze games has been changing rapidly in the past 10 years. New statistics and new technology are giving us knowledge about players and their skills, and that information is being used by every team in baseball. What are these new statistics, and how are they being used? Baseball writer Keith Law has written Smart Baseball to show us the right way to look at baseball.
So this was the book that I wrote in response to readers who kept asking me for a primer on advanced statistics, or who would say, I understand that you think RBIs aren't useful, pitcher wins aren't useful. I'd love to know more about why. Can you write a column about that? Or what book can I read to get up to speed on how teams are looking at players now? Essentially, they wanted to understand the changing nature of baseball commentary, but also how teams are using analytics to evaluate players. And for years, I said that the book doesn't exist. I could not recommend something that's for the lay reader, very little math involved, that would answer all of these questions. And after a few years, maybe I could write that book. I'd never written one before. Put together a pitch. It was well received right away. It sold very quickly. So, all right, well, maybe other people think there's a market for this too. And the finished product really resembles the original pitch. It was very much an outline of, here's the bad stats, here's why they're bad, here's the better stats, stuff that everyone has access to, and to help you understand from on-base percentage up to wins above replacement or WAR. And at the end, I wanted to try to at least peek a little bit into the future. The rise of this StatCast property from Major League Baseball is reshaping analytics as we speak, with teams employing PhDs and master's candidates just to handle that data. We don't really know where it's going. Maybe that's the second edition in 5 years, but I had to at least address it. Here's what's in it, and here's what teams are at least hinting that they're doing with it. And maybe a few years down the road, we will know better what that's telling us about players, how it's getting used within teams. Maybe some of that will trickle out to the public too.
Along with new statistics and ways of measurement, Law believes many of the traditional stats being used are terrible because they don't tell us anything useful. The 3 worst?
Pitcher wins, which a pitcher really just doesn't have that much control over it. RBIs, which just have been used forever as the measure of a hitter's productivity, especially a power hitter. And again, it's not just about you. I mean, the problem with all of these stats is they're not about you, right? They're about what the other players are doing around you. Or in the case of RBIs, the guys hitting the 2 spots ahead of you in the lineup. And saves, which I might say is the worst stat of all because it's actually altered the way that the game is played. It's altered the way players are compensated, and it doesn't do anything useful at all. The definition itself is entirely arbitrary. It was coined by a sports writer. And speaking as a sports writer, I can say that that's a terrible idea. Don't let us make up stats that are going to change the future of the game.
Keith believes that the way the save statistic has been implemented led to one of the most controversial decisions in Orioles baseball history. The decision not to use Zach Britton in 2016's playoff game against Toronto. The Orioles ended up losing that game without their best reliever making an appearance.
He was being saved for a save situation. That Showalter, who was generally a good tactical manager, but made a tactical blunder there, was foreseeing the possibility that they would take a lead, he would have a save situation, Britton would be unavailable because he'd already been used, and then they blow the save. If the save doesn't exist, you blow the lead. Well, that's still bad, but you have not lost it's essentially the accounting portion of the game. I don't care about the accounting. I don't care who got the win or who got the save. I want to win the game. The best way to win that game was to prolong the game, and that was to use Britton as opposed to having him stand on the mound for the entire offseason, waiting for the call that never came.
There's a portion of baseball fans that have trouble accepting the new analytics that Law discusses in Smart Baseball, but Law believes that they actually enhance the game.
If you're a fan of a specific team, to help your team make better decisions, well, then you want them, right? If you're going, especially the draft, which is what is much of my life right now, is going out and seeing draft players. If I know, it used to be we would rely on scouts to say he can really spin a breaking ball. He's got good rotation on the breaking ball. I was taught what to look for. I think I know what a good curveball looks like. But now we might actually have data that says, no, this guy's curveball spins at 2,500 RPM, this guy's at 2,300 RPM. So I can definitively say to you, he's got better rotation on that breaking ball. Well, I'd much rather have that information in the draft room because I can make a better decision. And if that frees up my scouts to look at other things like deliveries and mechanics, which you really can't handle through analytics, then so much the better. We're getting more information and we're getting more accurate information. That means making better decisions. It puts better players on the field, which is what I think every fan should want, not just for his own team, but I'm not a fan of any team. I just want to see the best players on the field at any given time.
Law, a regular writer for ESPN.com, found some challenges moving from short-form writing to writing his first book.
The biggest thing for me is, I've been done for 2 months. It's like, let's go already. Why is there not? Typically I write something and I file it, and within 36 hours at worst, it's on the site. And I have my own blog where I write non-baseball stuff, and you just hit publish and it's done. So the idea that I wrote this 2 months ago, it feels old to me. That like, no, that's something I did already, and yet it hasn't been published. Only a handful of people who've seen advanced copies have read it. So that's been very different, and just the idea of writing something of this length. I don't think I'd ever written anything for ESPN that ran past, let's say, 3,000 words. That wasn't a ranking or a list. The idea of a single narrative, each one of these chapters might run 5,000 to 6,000 words, and then I really had to work with my editor on stitching things together so that we would get from one chapter to the next, and you'd feel some sort of narrative flow, rather than it simply being a series of essays, which, if you just look at the raw copy I'd originally filed, that's what it would have felt like. Just a bunch of essays that had the same theme but weren't really connected in any fashion.
In addition to scouting prospects and writing about baseball, Law blogs about cooking, music, reading, politics, and whatever else strikes his fancy on his blog, The Dish. How does he find the time to do all this?
The one saving grace in all this is I write very fast and I read very fast. And I wouldn't be able to accomplish as much if I weren't able to churn stuff out fairly quickly. And the nice thing about the book process too was it was the first time, like I have editors at ESPN who do provide feedback, of course, but it's not to the same level. I could send something that in my opinion was very unfinished to HarperCollins, and that was okay. Like, they're used to getting, he said it's still better than, he didn't have to change a lot of grammar, for example. He could understand what I was getting at. That said, I don't have a lot of downtime. I don't watch a lot of television. And so there's very little time where I'm just sitting on the couch doing nothing. If I sit on the couch, even with the family, I probably got a book. Or last night we actually watched a movie together as a family, but of course I'm sitting there thinking, now how am I gonna write this up for the blog? And did I like it? And I'm polling my daughter too, because it was animated. Did she like it? And she said, well, it was okay, but it wasn't great. And so I'm really quizzing her, well, give it a letter grade. What did you think? And I think she gave it a C+. So yeah, so it was good, but she's definitely liked some other, we've been on a run of animated movies too. She's liked some other ones better.
With his love of cooking and dining out, is a cookbook in Law's future?
There will be a Keith Law not baseball book. That one I can promise. I've got one proposal I've started to put together that's got nothing at all to do with baseball. It would be in the food world. It's not a cookbook. I always worry that my recipes aren't original enough. I mean, I know you can't copyright a recipe, but anything I've come up with has been someone else's recipe that I've made 5 changes to. Is that really my recipe then, or did I just borrow it from like a Hugh Atchison or Richard Blaise or somebody, and really it's their recipe and I've just kind of tweaked it to my tastes?
Smart Baseball by Keith Law is available at all Baltimore County Public Library branches and can be reserved online by visiting our website, bcpl.info.